You're listening to Talk of Champions, an Ole Miss Spirit podcast with Ben Garrett.
It's time! It's time! It's time! It's time! It's time!
Hello again, friends, and welcome inside, at least for me, the RiverLand Roofing Studios, a little house up top. RiverLand Roofing for all your roofing needs, 662-644-4297. RiverlandRoofing.com, few if any, are doing more for Ole Miss sports in the NIL name, image, and likeness space than our friends, Billy Landis and company at RiverLand Roofing. So give them a shout, 662-644-4297, RiverlandRoofing.com. There you see on your screen right beside me is Ben Mintz of Barstool Sports. Mintzy, you look good, man. How you doing?
Doing good, man. You know, we're late January. Obviously, a bunch of stuff going on, but yeah, all good. Just trying to stay warm up here in Chicago, man. This Chicago winter it ain't for the faint of heart. I can tell you that. But I'm excited today because I'm on my way to New Orleans tomorrow, and I'll be down there from Saturday to Friday doing content and a lot of networking and stuff for Super Bowl week. So that'll be fun.
I would have loved to have seen Mintzy in New Orleans when it snowed. That would have been perfect. You know, the content you could have generated when New Orleans got its first snow in forever would have been amazing. What are you doing in New Orleans?
Man, so a bunch of stuff. We've got some Barstool events. We've got a big event on Tuesday night at the Fillmore, a dozen trivia event, and we've got some like Barstool radio shows. But then also, I'll just say it. I'm exercising my privileges in New Orleans because I'm invited to like every single event all week. One of the most fun ones I'm going to, the Steve Gleason Charity Foundation Golf Tournament.
Nice.
Next Thursday, 11 a.m., Sean Payton, a lot of other people playing in it, Chris Berman, et cetera. I'm going to go do my show from the clubhouse that morning. That'll be fun. And then there's just stuff all over the city, all week. There's a lot of like fun concerts and events and stuff. So I kind of just going to get out, go to I think I'm going to go by Radio Row one day, maybe Monday, and see all the ESPN Baton Rouge. All my coworkers are all over there. Go see them. And, man, I'm just going to get out, run around, shoot some clips, raise some hell, and see what happens. That'll be fun.
Good. That sounds like a fun time. And Mintzy in New Orleans, doesn't get much better, more perfect as far as appearing. It's interesting right now. We're in that weird spot where there's only one football game left. College football is over. Basketball, you're pushing toward March. Baseball, college baseball, at least for you and I, is getting close. But for you, how have you managed not having college football for the last couple of weeks? Have you felt any kind of like withdrawals?
Yeah, well, this is the week you feel the withdrawals. The first real week, it started last Saturday is tough. It's because that's the first Saturday without football because you have NFL playoffs those first two weekends. So that last Saturday I woke up, I was like, but at least you have the conference championships last Sunday. This week is a big transition week with it. I'm following the Senior Bowl stuff, though. We got a lot of Ole Miss people down there just doing, the Jaxson Dart rise is fascinating because, I talked to all these scouts and GMs and, high up people, and I'll be honest, man, they were telling me 4th, 5th round grade all year. And, because I kept, people would hit me up on Twitter, like, what do you think? Like 2nd, 3rd round. I'm like, man, I'm just telling you what I hear. Like, I'm not a scout, but he is rising. And I think, obviously Duke wasn't great, but I feel like that throw he made in that bowl game where he was like rolling left out of bounds, that bomb he threw to Watkins is one of the craziest throws I've ever seen. And then, he's gotten to the Senior Bowl and he's got a lot of momentum, and a lot of it, it's a combo of stuff. First part of it, this is a crappy quarterback draft class.
That's exactly what I was thinking
for him. Because you look at it like, I do like Cam Ward. I don't know if he's a 1-1 guy. I have questions. I think Shedeur is going to be a bust. I don't know. I got a lot of questions there. And so he's competing with Jalen Milroe to probably be the number 3 quarterback off the board in the draft. And look, Dart's a lot better overall quarterback than Milroe. Milroe is just not a consistent passer. And so I think Dart's got a good shot to be the 3rd quarterback taken in this draft. And what's fascinating is how high will he rise? Because now people are saying 1st round. I don't know. But, I feel like early 2nd round is, going to happen and, possibly could sneak into the 1st. I know the Giants have said they like him a lot. Like, I don't know if maybe the Giants would take him at the top of the 2nd round. But, people are saying maybe even 1st. And, I love seeing it for him. As I kind of like evaluate that whole last season, I feel like, obviously spent a lot of time talking about whatever happened at running back. But the offensive line's run blocking wasn't that good. And I feel like a lot got put on Dart this year. Maybe, I know he made some mistakes, certainly at the end of the Florida game and, et cetera. But, I feel like he might have gotten a little bit of a bad rap for some of the stuff. And, you look at the 3-year career, broke all the Ole Miss records. He's mobile. He's tough. He's a leader. He throws a great deep ball. I mean, I'm excited to see him get this momentum in Mobile. It's
competency across the board for him. Like he maybe doesn't do anything at an elite level that makes you go, oh, that's the thing that makes him projectable for the next level necessarily. But you can go, oh, he can make tight window throws. He did have a little trouble going under center for a second, but of course he did. It was his first time doing it. Outside of an Ole Miss, like Ole Miss didn't go under center ever. So there's some things in his game that can work out, but where you can pick apart the games of Cam Ward, Shedeur Sanders. I'm a little bit more bullish on Cam Ward, but again, there's no
I like
obvious.
Cam. I'm not saying I'm big. I'm definitely like him more than Shedeur.
But the thing is I'm with you. I don't think there's any obvious QB1-1 in this draft. Now, what it reminds me of is when Matt was coming out, same kind of thing, not a great draft class. Kenny Pickett was the only quarterback that went in the first round that year. I don't think it'll be like that this year, but I do think there's a wide range of outcomes for Jaxson. The reason why you're seeing this first round kind of momentum projection for him currently is because of the draft class and his overwhelming competency. He's always going to be very consistent across the board in what he does and what he does well, and that stands out. But Matt did the same thing. Matt also had a similar kind of draft process to Corral, where he was getting all this love and then he falls to the third round. It's a very volatile range of outcomes for Jaxson, but I agree with you, man. I think that in the end, because of where the needs fall in the draft and where Jaxson has kind of taken this momentum, this stock building since the Gator Bowl, yeah, I could really see him sneaking into the back end of the first round. I bet it's going to end up being the second or the third, but it depends on fit. I'm glad to see that Jaxson, however, is like you getting that due, because this is one of the best Ole Miss players ever, and it's a different era, and we don't talk about it the same way. Eli was celebrated coming out. Chad Kelly even celebrated. Jaxson too. But in this transfer era, there's not the same type of attachment. It's awesome to see Jaxson get this run, and also throughout the whole time kind of continue to provide shine for Ole Miss. And then his brother Diesel Dart got an offer. So the Jaxson Dart story is not over for Ole Miss, and I wish the best of luck for him. What do you think is a good fit for him, though? Like,
I think what's going to happen, my prediction, I actually think, it's always better if you get taken late first round, because then you go to like a good team where you can succeed. I think the likely outcome for him is either the Giants or the Raiders top the second round, because they both need quarterbacks real bad. And I don't know if he's going to go like top 10 pick, but I could see beginning of the second round, either one of those being very, very possible. Jaxson being a West Coast guy a little bit, Utah guy, the Raiders thing would be interesting. You look at, he was a USC guy, which goes back to the Pete Carroll, Lane Kiffin thing. And, Lane and Pete are close. So, Lane Kiffin's talking to Pete Carroll about him. So I could see the Raiders thing. There have been rumors of him and the Giants being linked. Those are both kind of tough situations, like I said, but there's just a lot of teams in the NFL desperate for quarterbacks right now. I don't know if the Cleveland Browns is looking, man, I hope he doesn't go to Cleveland.
Don't go to Cleveland.
That's a hard place to, that's a really tough place to succeed. Like the Giants, Malik Neighbors and him could be something. Like that could be really fun. I mean, he already looked like one of the best receivers in the NFL. But I just, really hope for the best for him, because he gave so much to Ole Miss. And then when you look at the difference between him and Matt Corral, Matt had some like off-field stuff that was red flags with the NFL interviews and a bunch of stuff. And Jaxson, I don't think he has any of that. I know he's a Mormon and doesn't even drink alcohol. So, I think he's got, that's going to help him in this process.
That's a really good point. And I look at this draft class for Ole Miss and watch Walter Nolan dominating the Senior Bowl. Jared Ivey's having an incredible Senior Bowl week as well. And both have drawn first-round projections, as has Princely Umanmiele, and J.J. Pegues got an interception in the Shrine Bowl. Chris Paul is one of the top performers in the Shrine Bowl this week. Caden Prieskorn fumbled in the Shrine Bowl, but had a pretty strong week as far as it goes. We're not going to look back on this team, Mintzy, and wonder how the hell they lost 3 games forever, are we?
Well, you mentioned that the thing that you're going to look back on, it's that front seven on defense, man. When you had Walter Nolan and Ivy and Pegues and Paul and Princely, and I know we're lucky Perkins is back for another year, but I mean, that was an all-time historic front seven. I mean, best in school history. and, one of the best defenses in the country. And, just seeing them shine in the Senior Bowl, it does make you think what might have been, but it was like awesome getting to watch those guys dominate every single week. And even in the games they lost, I mean, it wasn't their fault at LSU, it wasn't their fault against Kentucky, and it really wasn't their fault against Florida. It was a lot more on the offensive line and the other side of the ball. It's going to be interesting next year because the Ole Miss definitely has talent. And I know we had some young stud recruits, stepping in on the D line, and, love that we got Perkins back. But the front seven's, I think it'll be good next year, but it ain't going to be nothing like, I mean, we're losing 5 top 3-round picks off this year. So that's going to be awful tough to replace, but it sure as hell was fun watching them.
It was. Ole Miss is having to replace 18 of its starting 22, 9 on offense and 9 on defense. Why are we not panicking, though? Or why are you and I, because I know you feel like I do, this team with the expanded college football playoff, and even with all the uncertainty around the team, I still expect them to be in contention. Now, maybe that's because I'm on the ground every day here in Oxford, but I see Ari and Andy for On 3, Andy Staples, our buddy, and Ari Wasserman, released their way too early top 25, and Ole Miss isn't even in it. And I'm thinking, I get it, replacing 18 to 22, but I mean, I don't know, man. Maybe I'm buying too much into the Austin Simmons stock. Tell me I'm not crazy to think that Ole Miss can still contend even with replacing so much next year.
I think it's going to be a different year as far as like the fan experience stuff, but I think it's going to be a really fun year because this year had so much pressure. Everybody was so all in for the playoff thing. Like, I think Ole Miss is going to be like top 20, top 25, like 8-4-ish, but like super fun. And I think they're going to be good. I think the schedule, obviously you're in the SEC, the schedule is going to be tough. South Carolina and Florida and LSU are all at home, at least, which is a positive. I love all that. Got to go, I believe got to go back to Georgia, right? Yeah, because it's the same schedule as last year, just flipped. It was weird how they did that. Got to go to Georgia and Oklahoma. Crazy Ole Miss and Georgia playing 3 years in a row.
Right.
And then Tulane's like, I like that they're playing. One thing I like about the schedule this year is I like that they're playing Tulane and Washington State non-conference. And I'm not saying, those are like super like elite teams, but like last year, Ole Miss playing no one non-conference, I thought directly led to that Kentucky loss. I mean, we had 4 scrimmages, and then we came out and played like a, not a good Kentucky team, but a good defense, and got punched in the mouth a little bit and hadn't been in a close game in the fourth quarter. And so I like that we're playing Tulane September 20th. I'm all about the Austin Simmons thing too. I mean, I know it's been limited what we've seen of him, but the stuff you see out of him is just his demeanor. And then he was making throws that you don't see 18-year-olds make, where he's like lobbing it over to linebackers into windows and stuff. Like, he was making a lot of plays that you just don't see young quarterbacks make. So I'm super excited about him. And the team's still going to be really talented. Yeah, they lost a ton, but, shout out to the Grove Collective and our fans. I was really worried that when we didn't make the playoffs, the money was going to dry up because everybody just spent so much. I know they spent 8 figures on that roster last year. And I was worried that, are they going to be able to sustain that? And it certainly seems like they have. Ole Miss with another top 3 class in the portal. I don't know. I think there's a lot of reasons to be excited. I really do. I just think the thing is, though, there's just no way the defense doesn't regress. Like, at least, I think it's going to go from like one of the top in the country to like good. Last year we had like a top, I thought it was like top 1 to 3 in the country. And this year I think it'll be top 30 or 40. So that's going to be like, we're still going to be good, but that's still a pretty big drop,
It is. And I was looking at ESPN's way too early college football top 25. 9 SEC teams were ranked. Ole Miss will play number 5, number 8, number 10, and number 18 on that list. And I'm looking down the schedule. Georgia State win, at Kentucky win, right?
I think that's a revenge game after last year, and they're kind of reeling right now. So I think that you're going to see a huge effort by us at Kentucky because of what happened last year.
Well, let's just do this then, because what else are we going to do today? Versus
man,
Arkansas.
We have plenty. We have basketball.
We do have basketball, and Ole Miss got off the schneid, but let's run through this real quick. All right, September 13th, way too early. It's January 31st, 2025. Our thanks to RiverLand Roofing, the little house up top, riverlandroofing.com, 662-644-4297. They power talk of champions. September 13th, quick hitter Ben Mintz before we jump to some other things. Arkansas, win or loss?
Win.
Tulane versus Tulane.
Well, beat I'm close. I'm actually real close to that Tulane program. I've got a crazy. Well, actually, this would be too.
No, what?
But I help, dude. I have a wild NIL story with Tulane, where there's this recruit, this really good App State center who used to play for Virginia Tech, was in a battle between Tulane and Northwestern in the portal. And Tulane thought they had him, and I'm friends with the Tulane head of NIL, and I'm friends with John Summerall. And Tulane thought they had this kid, and then somebody offers him an unpaid internship in the Barstool office. And I was like, oh, if it's Northwestern, it's probably White Sox Day. Christmas Eve morning, I get hit up by the Tulane GM. I get hit up by the Tulane head NIL, and John Summerall hit me up. Christmas Eve morning, they're like, dude, we really need this App State O-lineman. He's really good. Like, he's like first team all Sun Belt. And we're worried we're going to lose to Northwestern over this kid offering him a Barstool internship. Is there anything you can do? I was like, I'll make some phone calls. So I made some phone calls at Barstool, and so we have a new guy running the Barstool Tulane account. So I hit him back. I was like, I can't help you with money, but if he wants to run the Barstool Tulane account, he can do that. They hit me back. They're like, we got him on the money. We just needed this Barstool thing. And then the next day, commits to Tulane.
Woo! People helping people.
Sends me this text that's unreal. He's like, Michigan has Portnoy and Ole Miss and Tulane have Mintz.
They do. Dadgummit. They got Ben Mintz. Hey, look, man, you told me a little over a year ago that you were going to get the Barstool College Football Show to Oxford, Mississippi, and sure enough, there they were for Georgia, and that was so much fun, man, just hanging out with you.
That was the most fun weekend I've ever had in Oxford. And it was, dude, life's so funny because my thing, and everybody follows it, sees it, man, it's just a roller coaster all the time. And it's like, you just hit these peaks where it's so good and then it crashes and stuff. And after that Georgia weekend, I was like, man, this is just way too good. And then right after, just the Florida game, it just horrible end of the year. But we'll always have that Georgia weekend. That's for sure.
But also free pass for next year, even though I don't know. I'm bullish on it. We could talk more about it. But all right, you got Ole Miss so far 4-0 and host LSU on September 27th. Win or loss?
That was going to be tough. It's in Oxford, which gives Ole Miss a good chance because at home. But, I mean, I'm just going to be truthful. I think LSU is going to be freaking
good,
really good next year. I think they're like right now they're ranked like 15 or 20. But they finally committed to the portal, and like Nussmeier's back, and their receiving core next year, like getting that Barrion Brown kid from Kentucky, Nick Anderson from Oklahoma. They got Aaron Anderson, who's a stud. They've got 2 stud tight ends. Like, I think Nuss could has a shot at the Heisman. And on the defensive side, I'm a Blake Baker fan. I think he's a great defensive coordinator. Look, their personnel has been crap the last couple of years. They got the stud edge, Patrick Payton from Florida State. They got a 350-pound nose tackle. They got 3 new good corners. Whit Weeks back, Perkins back. I mean, I think LSU's heading to the playoffs, so I think that one's going to be tough. I'm not saying Ole Miss can't win it, but I'd probably say loss if I had to guess.
I would too. After a bye week versus Washington. But I will say at home and knowing what little we know about Ole Miss, and it could be a lot could click together. They could have some things happen. I think Ole Miss could get LSU. I think that's going to be one of the most fun.
Oh yeah, no doubt. No, those games. If it was in
However,
Baton Rouge, I would not feel the same if it was in Baton Rouge. But man, those LSU Ole Miss games. I mean, Ole Miss plays well against them in Oxford.
Mm-hmm. But you're right, LSU. If there are a few teams when you look around that have done more to take themselves from one place to another through the portal, like LSU. Where Ole Miss, it's portal class, yes, number 3 in the country according to On3. A lot of it is projectability, not proof of concept, right? Like Deshaun Womack didn't do it at LSU. Now will he do it at Ole Miss? But it's kind of like that everywhere with Ole Miss because they've built a roster out to grow with the upside of Lane Kiffin. Not Lane Kiffin, Austin Simmons. It's a bunch of lottery tickets. And it's a different approach, but it makes it very intriguing for what it could be.
Protecting homes and businesses from the whims of nature, you need more than just quality materials. You require RiverLand Roofing. Licensed, insured, and certified, RiverLand Roofing offers not only the assurance of excellence, but a tailored approach to your unique structural needs and budget. To learn more about what RiverLand Roofing can do for you and the community, call them at 662-644-4297 or visit riverlandroofing.com.
This is Cali. With C-Spire's blazing fast nationwide 5G network, she's got her fans in the palm of her hands. Live streaming her Mississippi Blues from her phone wherever she is. To out there wherever they are. Right now, get the latest 5G phone on us. Only at C-Spire, customer inspired.
So here we go. Real quick, Washington State at home, win.
When they're by the way, biggest tragedy ever, the Pac-12 thing. And Washington State actually, Mateer going to the quarterback going to Oklahoma and their OC going to Oklahoma. I mean, they're going to, that won't be a problem.
Georgia at Georgia.
That probably not.
Just say it's okay. It's all at Oklahoma. Know. At Oklahoma, we got to go to that one. We need to meet up at that one.
That would be a fun one to go to. I know I'll go to LSU because I always do. The Oklahoma thing's interesting because I like that Mateer kid they took. Like they really didn't have an offense last year, but the only thing Venables, the defense will always be good with him, but that Zach Alley, stud defensive coordinator, left Oklahoma to go to West Virginia because he's a rich rod guy, and that was a real surprising move to me. Because you think Oklahoma's going to pay him more. That at Oklahoma, that's going to be one of the key ones of the season. God, it's a coin flip. I'm going to say we win because I'm going to be optimistic.
Versus South Carolina. This is a harder schedule than I think we could.
I know it is. South Carolina's really, really good.
You're getting Lenore Sellers, but you're getting him at home.
Man, I'm just going to I'll probably say loss on that one.
I'm going to say I got it written down as a win, but
I don't know. We're so good at home, though, man. Ole Miss under Lane, we don't really lose at home. So, actually, I'll say win.
The Citadel's a win versus Florida with DJ Lagway. A revenge game.
I don't feel good about. I'm telling you, them and LSU are the two teams I'm watching this year. What I saw out of Florida, obviously we saw when we lost to them. But, man, the momentum they closed with, Portal, Lagway, I think, man, he might be a Heisman guy next year. I think he's that good to see what we saw out of him as a true freshman. So, I don't know. The Florida, I'm going to say we beat South Carolina and lose to Florida.
I could buy that. I think they need to get 2 of 3 if they expect to make the playoff of Oklahoma, South Carolina, and Florida, and that's going to be really hard. And then they close the season at Mississippi State. We're going to predict that they win that game. Sure.
Yeah, I feel good about it. I was really surprised State didn't fire that defensive coordinator, by the way.
They were really bad.
I mean, they couldn't stop anybody. I mean,
isn't their defensive coordinator Coleman Hutzler, former Ole Miss assistant?
Yeah, I thought he would get fired. I mean, he was in a bad spot too because their whole team transferred and it was a total rebuild. But they could move the ball last year a little bit, but man, they couldn't stop anybody. I mean, I guess their defense did play pretty good in the Egg Bowl, but they're allowing 40 or 50 a week to everybody else.
You have Ole Miss as 8-4.
Yeah, and I think look, I'm not saying they can't have a better year. I just think, like I said, the defense is going to still be good. And, there's a lot of talent on offense, but, just tough schedule. And I think 8-4 and maybe 9-3 and top 20, top 25, while Simmons builds toward the next few years, I think that would be a successful. Anything, I would say if you go set anything less than 8, though, would not be good. You don't want to go 7-5 and lose momentum.
Just like we all said it, if they don't make the playoff, we didn't put a number on the amount of wins. Just if they didn't make the playoffs, that season is a failure for all intents and purposes. Now, Ole Miss went and beat the crap out of Duke in the Gator Bowl, finished with 10 wins for the 3rd time in 4 years. That is not a failure, but for this Ole Miss team and what was expected, falling short was what? A failure. I think for next year, it's about, like you said, you want to see the projectability, get the 8 wins, have the chance for 9 or 10, be in that discussion, and then next year go boss the wall. But even then, Ole Miss is believing that it's going to contend for the playoff. And I'm going to be honest with you. When I saw the Heisman candidates, way too early Heisman candidates, and Arch is at the top and Austin Simmons is nowhere to be found, I'm not knocking Arch. I'm just saying Arch and Austin Simmons have very similar college football resumes right now, and yet Arch is being shot to the moon while Austin Simmons is just being treated as an also-ran. I'm not saying that Arch isn't better than Austin. I don't know. I don't presume to. I'm just saying that, what we pretend that is a sure thing in college football for next year, like an Arch Manning or DJ Lagway coming back. Like I saw he was like the number 2 quarterback or something returning. For Austin not to be in that consideration, I think is kind of short-sighted, only because he's got the same kind of profiles as other guys do.
No, I love Austin Simmons. I'm not saying I think he is a pure passer. I think he's going to have a really, really good year. And then, Heisman's probably early, but like junior and senior year, I think it's very, very possible. And the Ole Miss has still got a real good receiving core. I know we lost a lot of guys, but it's not like they're in talent. I've been asking my Penn State guys up here about Harrison Wallace. They're kind of guarded on him. They say he's like okay to pretty good, but no Penn State receivers caught a pass in that Notre Dame playoff game. So I'm a little guarded on him. But Caleb Cunningham could come on as a freshman. Caden Lee's a stud. And Wright, man, the tight end from Virginia Tech really blew up last year. I mean, Daquan Wright, he's the guy to watch. I mean, he could be first team All SEC.
I know you're not traveling as much early this year as you were last year, but if Ole Miss makes the NCAA tournament for the first time in 6 years and for the 10th time in the 100-plus year history of Ole Miss basketball, you really mean to tell me you're not going to show up?
Well, I've got a DraftKings sportsbook opening thing in Louisiana the first weekend of March Madness, so I know I got to go to that. But, man, I'll say this. I interviewed Beard a couple of weeks ago. Love what's going on with Ole Miss basketball. I mean, granted, that at Alabama win, the only win I can remember that had me that hyped was when Ole Miss beat Florida in the 2013 SEC championship game. That was the best road regular season win, first ever against a top 5 team. And, I mean, incredible. No shame in that OT loss at State. Great game against the top 15 team. That damn A&M game, just the way they lost it at the end was just such a heartbreaker and a dagger. And then, you lost to Missouri, who's top. I mean, everybody's good. It's not a bad loss to Missouri. They're top 25. Had to have – look, I know it was ugly beating Texas the other night. That was the fork in the road must-win game of the season. Because if you drop 4 in a row there and go to 4-4 with Auburn and Kentucky and at Florida and this schedule coming up, things could have gotten a little sideways. And so I just proud of the team for pulling that thing out. Sean Padula especially, thought he played an incredible game, made a lot of big shots in that game. But I really think when you look back at the season, the difference between 5-3 in the SEC and 4-4 with the schedule ahead, I mean, that was with Beard playing his old team in Texas, that was a total must win. And they were down 10 in the first half and fought back. And so, yeah, I mean, they didn't cover the spread, but who cares? I think, that was one of those games, just gutting it out. Was really big. In
Ole Miss baseball, that is one of your closest loves. Tell me Ole Miss is going to get back to the playoffs.
Man, I hope so on the tournament thing. I mean, I'm so excited. It's so crazy, the Hunter Elliott journey. Was so unbelievable. In the title, the Omaha, the championship, just that whole run. I mean, he was just him and Dylan DeLuca, Ole Miss was 10-0 in the NCAA tournament when those two guys started that year. Crazy. And then, he had the injuries the sophomore year, and they tried to bring him back LSU game when they shouldn't have. Misses the whole last year. I thought he was just going to go pro, but he loves Ole Miss. He's a Tupelo guy. And, it's supposedly he looks great, and he's had plenty of time to get better. So just having him as a Friday night guy and something to build around just gives you a lot of momentum. And so that part has me pumped. When I look at goals for this team, just want to make it back to the tournament. SEC baseball is really tough. I think you got to go 13-17 in the league to make the NCAA tournament. No team's ever made it to 12-18, but I think that could change this year with how good the SEC is. So I just, I think that's all about getting back to respectability this year. Even if you're like a 3 seed in the tournament, that'd be a successful year.
Is it Tennessee and everybody else?
They lost a lot, but they're still really good. So when you look at it, I've been studying it. LSU's number 3. A&M's got almost everybody back, but they lost Sloss, and they promoted the hitting coach, Michael Early. So that's going to be interesting to see. You've already got all the pieces in place and a loaded lineup. So, you think that transition over this year, I don't know, in baseball, how much does losing the coach matter? Arkansas is always good. They're top 10. Just a lot of the usual suspects. I'm curious, Florida had a weird year last year and lost Jack Caglione. Vandy will be good. We'll see. Kentucky had that dream year last year. Can they sustain it? I mean, it's just standard SEC, man. Everybody's going to be tough as hell. They always are.
What we need to do is meet together at the Hoover Met for the SEC tournament and sit you I've been going to it for a long time, and it never changes. It's the same. It's one of the few like purely college things left, I think. But what we need to do is drop Ben Mintz right beside the Vandy Whistler, and then
I know. He tried to be. He tried to make that peace offering last year, so it was a little. I don't know. He flustered me. He tried to be nice to me, and I should have been a dick to him. And like I kind of froze in the moment, to be honest.
Does he not know? Does he really not know that we appreciate the novelty, but like it's making the experience worse for everyone else?
He doesn't get it. He's just some random dude that's found a way to be famous.
Let's go.
He's just nobody would know who he was if he didn't whistle. You know what I mean? So whistle he shall. He's Ben Mintz of Barstool Sports. What do you got going on coming up, man? Like anything special? Like I said, the NOLA Super Bowl week. Shout out AJ Brown and the Inner Excellence. Well, I wonder what that author of that book's going to do for AJ Brown. Like nobody even knew it existed. Now it's been number one on the New York Times bestseller list for a few weeks because AJ just reads it on the sideline. But really excited Super Bowl week. Like I said, that'll be a lot of fun. And then, man, I'm making like a little bit of a content change this year where I should have done this a few years ago because the college baseball presence up at Barstool isn't enough. But like I'm just transitioning right into college baseball at the Super Bowl. The opening weekend's the next week. We got our partnership with DraftKings, and it's really fun. They've got over-unders lines. It's amazing to me that 4 years ago, they'd only have lines for games in Omaha. And now you can bet on ULM Ole Miss on a Tuesday night. It's crazy how far it's come. So I'm going to do a lot of content with that and really try to embrace the college baseball thing the next 4.5 months. And so that's kind of the plan for the year. But, yeah, life's good, man. I'm enjoying Chicago, trying to fight through this winter. But, it's a good place to be. I like living here like 1,000 times more than New York. I mean, obviously I'm always going to compare it to my 2 years in New York, but people are way nicer here, way cleaner city. Cost of living's a lot cheaper. So, love this Barstool office. And that's kind of the plan. I'm doing that weekend, doing the Super Bowl week in NOLA. And then my next trip's that March Madness deal in Louisiana. And if I do make Oxford for a weekend, that Vandy Ole Miss series and double decker would be the weekend I tried to make. Because I always like to try to get to Oxford. I didn't make it last spring, and that kind of bummed me out. So I always try to. I like to try to make Oxford a good 4 to 6 times a year if I can.
If you do make it for that weekend, that's when we'll do BP with Clem. That's what we'll do.
I'd love to do that.
And Ben Garrett out there trying to get some hacks in.
Yeah, man, I'd love to do that. That actually, you know what? that might be the one I really try to make. That's the last weekend of April, and shout out Double Deckers. Got Troy Crockett and Grace Potter. I mean, really good pools.
Grace
for
Potter's
Oxford.
awesome.
Yeah, I thought those were great pools for Oxford, and I always love supporting Robin and Scott Carradine and everybody that puts that things together.
Well, the Super Bowl is the Kansas City Chiefs and the Philadelphia Eagles, and this Cowboys fan, for one, is rooting for Arthur Brown to get him some hardware because he deserves it. The mayor didn't get to appear in a bowl at Ole Miss. By golly, let it happen now. I just don't want to see a three-peat. But more than anything, AJ, one of the all-time greats, man. I want to see AJ get some much deserved hardware, Mincy. I think that's what I'm going to do. And it's as hard as it is for me as a Cowboys fan to root for the friggin' Eagles. But at this point, the Cowboys are an absolute disaster. So are you with me on the AJ Brown train? We're both.
I love AJ Brown, and I'd like to see him win for sure. But man, here's the thing: the Chiefs hate's gone too far, and I get it because it's like the old Batman, whatever the thing. It's like when you live long enough as the hero, you become the villain, and you see that in sports all the time. And it reminds me the thing it reminds me of the most is like the Steph Curry Golden State era, where when Steph Curry got on the scenes at Golden State, he's doing stuff nobody's ever seen. That's exactly what it was like when Mahomes came on the thing with KC, but then they won forever, and everybody just ended up hating them. I just love Patrick Mahomes. I mean, a lot of it's got to do with the fact that we talk the exact same. But I've just never – look, other than Eli Manning and Drew Brees, Mahomes is my favorite quarterback I've ever watched. And, I mean, I've made – the amount of money I've made betting on the Chiefs going back to 2018. I mean, I've ridden this thing forever. I'll continue to do it. I bet big on them against the Bills Sunday. And as long as number 15 is on that field, I mean, it's hard. It's going to be awful hard to go against them. I think the Eagles have a way more complete team. I think if you look at the rosters, the Eagles is way better. The Chiefs' run defense has looked a little weak in the playoffs, which is a problem against Saquon. And the Chiefs' offensive line, specifically their left tackle and right tackles, have been bad all year. And the Eagles have a really good, defensive line. But, man, they got number 15, man. Dude just finds a way. They're 12-0 in their last 12 one-score games. And until he doesn't find a way, it is what it is.
I'm hosting a bunch of New Albany families here at my house for the Super Bowl. And I was, the kids, they're going to be wearing their Taylor's boyfriend shirts. And they're going to be playing, on the trampoline and stuff. But I've never been a particularly proficient gambler. But I was like, man, I need to call Mintzy and get some prop bets to play with the dudes here at the party, right? You need to help me out with some prop bets for the bowl.
I got a couple of guys to look out for I like in this game. Devontae Smith for the Eagles. I know AJ is obviously the number one. But Devontae, the last 2 times the Chiefs played the Eagles, he's had like 17 targets. So they go to him a lot. And I also think this game being in the Superdome favors those like smaller, faster receivers a lot. Devontae Smith's also from Amite, Louisiana, like 40 minutes from NOLA. So homecoming for him. He's a guy I'm watching on props. And then I think Xavier Worthy could have a really big game. He's come on so strong down the stretch for the Chiefs. They've just been real creative getting him the ball. At the beginning of the year, he was just running go routes and jet sweeps, but now they run a lot of bubble screens and corner routes and stuff. And I think him on that turf, he's lightning, runs like a 4.23. So those are kind of 2 of the guys I'm watching on the props thing. And then, I expect them to use Kelsey a lot too, because the Eagles, their linebacker coverage isn't the best. So, that I think Kelsey could have a good game too. The Saquon thing though, they're making Saquon's freaking over-unders 125 yards rushing a game. Like, I can't bet over that. He ran for 118 yards and 3 touchdowns in the NFC Championship and went under. Like, there's a point where, like, the number's just too crazy.
There were 2 I saw that I was like, that could work. Kareem Hunt, anytime touchdown, and Dallas Goedert, I think it was like over 40.5 receiving yards. Something like that.
Yeah, I like that too, because the Chiefs struggle covering tight ends a little bit. And then the Hunt thing's good because Pacheco hadn't been the same since he came back off the broke fibula. Hunt's definitely the goal line back. It's very established. So I like those 2.
Let's go.
I think it's going to be a great game, though.
I did too. I'm excited to watch it. I'm excited for you, Ben Mintz, and everything you got going on at Barstool in Chicago. Whenever you do get into town, look forward to hanging out. He's Ben Mintz of Barstool.
Yeah, one last question for you I got to ask about Ole Miss basketball. What's going on with Matt Morrell?
He's banged up. You can't tell.
That's what I thought it is. But like, I know he's one of our highest paid athletes on campus. And I thought it was he's banged up, but he just doesn't look aggressive. He's not taking the ball to the hole. I don't know. He just doesn't look confident. So I figured
he hadn't practiced a lot. He's been in the training room a whole ton. He's been dealing with injury, but when he didn't dunk in overtime against Mississippi State, that was the reddest of red flags alerts that he's not healthy. And he's trying to push through, and he's doing a great job defensively, but he's not the offensive player that Ole Miss needs him to be right now. So right now it's just about getting him healthy, getting Dre Davis healthy, because those 2 guys, at least on the defensive end alone, when they're healthy, they just such a difference in what Ole Miss basketball is. He's Ben Mintz of Barstool Sports. Our thanks to RiverLand Roofing, riverlandroofing.com, the little house up top, 662-644-4297. This is Ben Talk of Champions. I write for the Ole Miss Spirit, omspirit.com, an affiliate of On 3. Sign up today for as low as $1. Mintzy, my friend, thank you. I appreciate it. We'll do it again.
Absolutely, man.